Good morning, everyone. This is Captain Ando. I am the Dark Star Strategist. Today, I'm taking a little bit of a look at the Auger's performance. I want to get. We have a lot of Auger users in the Alliance, and I want to make sure that those who are making use of this asset know a little bit how it functions. So, now, those who are used to the Enterprise, the Auger is a little bit different. Instead of getting a free Spock slot from its ship ability, it kind of gets a free Decius, although not quite. The way it works is is triggered by burning, something either Nero or Georgiou can provide. But if your opponent gets hit with an obliterator weapon while the opponent is burning, so that's something that can be triggered by you or by somebody next to you, it will get a big damage boost, and that's very visible in the logs. And I want to kind of see that. Right now, I'm doing some testing against a 33 uncommon Armada, and theoretically, this should still win. It should be. This would be a very easy target for a similarly sized Enterprise. I don't know if this is going to go completely my way, but in this case, I don't really care. Now, the Auger has basically two energy weapons and one obliterator weapon. The obliterator weapon's kind of a big shot item and hits for even closer to 1,000,000. It's kind of like the Sally's kinetic weapon. If it crits, it goes even higher. Um, but but what it has is two energy weapons. They fire a lot, so they get 4 shots per round, two each, and they will fire every single round. So every one of those shots is a chance to trigger the burning. The burning, which occurs over multiple rounds, has to take effect during the turn the obliterator hits, and what will happen is all the damage will increase after it hits. So we're going to go ahead and run this. Currently, I have a 5 of 10 lead for damage mitigation and for looting privileges, and additional armor from Kumok, and the burning is created by Nero. So we're just going to see how that operates. Should ramp up the damage quite a bit, and we'll see if it works here. Okay, and it killed it, and as you can see, it survived with a lot of health. So the Auger performs pretty well, and it doesn't necessarily require the morale crew to operate in that capacity. That's something very important to realize. It didn't take a lot of damage there. It didn't keep its shields up the way the Enterprise would, but it's got a lot of health and armor, so it doesn't necessarily matter as much as long as the ship survives overall. So we take a look at the battle logs. Now, this is something that lasted a while, so this gives us a good opportunity to see the obliterator weapon and how it operates in action. So you can see the Armada got some hits right out the gate, and we saw the Auger's energy weapons firing first. And that will happen round 1. The obliterator doesn't go off until round 2, then it's round 5, then round 8, then 11, and so on every 3 rounds. But the energy weapons, you'll see them take shots every single round. So we can see the hits are not that heavy. They were roughly 110 apiece. It's give or take. And a lot of that was, of course, being absorbed by the shields and the mitigation, because this crew setup was not designed specifically to penetrate by a whole lot. And as you can see, multiple hits triggered burning. So this was no problem to get the burning effect for round 2. So going into round 2, we have that extra bit of shield deflection and dodge. And we can see real quick between the shots. This one, we took about 27-20 dodge. And this one, about the same. You can see that when you have Kumok in the bridge, the 5 of 10 influence doesn't really amount to much. We're still taking similar amounts of damage, but now we have an extra level of mitigation. So that means we're probably pretty much close to capped. I haven't calculated it, but it looks like we're probably about 71% of the weapon damage is getting mitigated just by 5 of 10 alone here. So we weren't getting a whole lot of that, but we're getting a little bit. So we got a little extra armor dodge and shield deflection. So now, first thing to go off in round 2 is the Obliterator weapon. You can see that go off here about 814k. So you can imagine if I'd set this lineup with Khan in the lineup, we might have seen some increases and some big crits later on in the fight. Just food for thought. At this point, it's more just demonstration purposes, just to see how the Obliterator effect takes place. So this did happen while it was burning. As you can see here, right at the beginning of the round, it took effect. It doesn't say when it takes effect, but you can see the damage is ramped up pretty significantly. Now we're sitting closer to 120 to 130k for your normal hits, and you can see the crit did quite a bit of damage. So you can already see that damage increase sparking in, and as you can see, it's not all that small. So we continue on to round 4. We'll see if burning procced anywhere during the round. It did, so we get another boost of the Obliterator weapon in round 5. So you can see now our Obliterator weapon hit for about 1,000,000 damage. So this is getting a lot stronger. You can imagine with Khan building up crit as it takes damage, you could see these developing some really big crits relatively early in the fight. So that's something just to be aware of. And you can see a natural progression of the average energy weapon damage occurring as well. That continues in here, and you can see that's continuing to proceed. It didn't look as pronounced the second round, so maybe it wasn't as big of a boost, but it's still in there. You can see we're getting pretty close to 130,000 now. We go into round 8, see if burning was procced in round 7. It was. Obliterator goes off again. We're up to about 1.1 million damage on its hit. And you can see the ramping damage of the energy weapons as well. So it's taking a lot more damage every time it hits. So as you're doing this, you can consider stacking damage. There's multiple ways to do that. You could put Ash Tyler in the bridge to ramp up the damage even more as it's burning. That's one combination here. And if you run that with 5 of 10 like this, you might see some pretty good results. This was more of a test run. This is just to show the Obliterator weapon and how it works. So you can see continuing on here, our energy weapons are going ever stronger. They're hitting every single round. So round 10, did we trigger burning? I don't think we did, so this may be an issue. Weapon goes off. And because we weren't burning at this time, the Obliterator didn't proc any extra damage. That's something to be aware of. If it doesn't go, if the ship is not burning on the round it hits, you won't see that increase in damage. So next one we're going to is round 13. See if the damage burning procs anywhere. It did not, again, so that's unfortunate. So as a result, the Obliterator did not do its damage increase during this round. So that's something to be aware of. If you have something that can keep burning up, whether it be yourself or the ships you're with, remember burning effect is something that's affected the group, not just yourself. This would be a good idea to see some really strong auger damage regardless of who's doing the burning. So if you're developing team synergy, it's a very good idea at least to consider running a crew with burning if you have augers present, because that's going to ramp up that damage some more. So we're up to about 150,000 damage now in round 16. You can see the damage it's becoming more and more significant. The longer the fight goes, the more it's going to have a chance to ramp up. Going to 16, we cause burning again. The Obliterator goes off while that ship is burning, and you're going to see another boost. So the energy weapons are hitting harder and harder every round. So you're looking at ways to compound the damage as the fight goes out. So it's very important at least to try to get burning into your lineup when you have augers present so you can take full advantage of all the damage you can do accordingly. So we're continuing in here. We're between 150 and 160,000 damage. Our obliterator goes off. You can see we're up to 1.4 million damage with that obliterator hit. So we're getting pretty large. Now, the one thing we're not seeing in this lineup is a lot of crits. So the auger is not necessarily a crit monster. With the obliterator, if you can get these to crit, obviously it's going to be a lot more damage. I don't know if we have an example, but we'll keep scrolling down real quick to round 23 and 26 to check it. If we see a big crit, we'll see an example there. No actual crit, and you can see that we're down to round 23 when the shield depleted. So it hung in there quite a while, nothing recharging the shields, and it still took 23 rounds to even deplete the shield. But our damage, as you can see, is ramped up quite a bit at this point. Get one last obliterator shot in round 26. Still didn't see the any crits here, so this may be one thing you want to try to put con in your lineup to get that. If you had a hull breach and a crit there, you're probably looking somewhere in the vicinity of 3.5 to 4 million damage from a crit. So that's just something to consider here. I didn't have any group synergy adding into this effect. But the obliterator hits, they're not small. Keep in mind, Saladins at their strongest usually crit for just a little bit more than this against Armada targets. So now this is getting normal damage up at around the 1.4 million. That obliterator weapon is not small. If you can make it crit and you can make it do it often and you can have the damage ramp up as it has here, you will see a lot of payout from the obliterator weapon. It's just getting the group composition together to make sure it does that. But that's a little bit about the Auger performance and how it works. How people decide to line up their own ships as they're running the Auger in these, that's totally their call. But I wanted to give people an idea of how the obliterator weapon worked and why it's so important to try to factor in burning into the discussion when you have a lot of augers present. So that's all I have for this video. If anyone has any questions, please reach out in game chat and Discord. And this is Captain Ando. I am the Dark Star Strategist. Live long and prosper. Signing out.